On the 12th of May 2008, a 7.9 earthquake hit the very mountainous and rural region of Sichuan, China. This was as the Indian and the Eurasian plate converged at a collision plate boundary. This had very destructive and devastating impacts, including 69,000 people that died, a further 374,000 people were injured, and it cost China $137.5 million, in damage. Now, part of the reason that there was so much damage is because of poor building regulations within China. The lack of regulations meant that buildings were built poorly, and it caused the mass destruction of homes, with 5 million people being made homeless. So not only have homes been destroyed, killing people, but we have 5 million people that are homeless. In addition to this, we had over 22,000 kilometres of roads that had been destroyed. So that would have also impacted the response, because it would have limited transport. So we've got roads being damaged would have limited transport, but also the fact that we are in a very rural area of China would have led to higher deaths, and response would have been a lot slower. Now, probably one of the worst impacts is the fact that many schools followed the same building regulations as other buildings, and this led to school buildings being destroyed. So we had over 10,000 school children that died because their buildings lacked regulation and there was corruption that had led to the schools being like this. Now, what China did do to very quickly respond is they mobilised their soldiers. So their soldiers were straight away going to aid and help out those that had been injured. They were used to that mountainous conditions. So that was 130,000 soldiers that went to aid and help the recovery. Now, luckily, China does have a growing GDP of 3,468, but still very, very limited. Now, one of the reasons why their deaths were so high, and should have slightly been lower for the country that China is and their growing economy, is because of their regulations. They have very, very tight aid. So they only allow certain charities and countries to provide them with aid. So while they needed aid in their recovery, because the earthquake had more devastating consequences than they had expected, they had delayed foreign aid. So it took a couple of days for the aid to be accepted, which would have led to an increase in deaths and injuries and consequences. Now, also, they are now improving their building structure. So in the next 10 years, they have looked to improve their building regulations, and they also gave $10 million to the recovery and have planned a further $31 million over the next 5 years. They also have employed, which is good for the economy because you've got more people employed, 700,000 disaster reporters. So these are preparing the nation for any other disasters that are likely. So where they're likely to have more earthquakes and how they can then prepare from those. So that is our Sichuan 2008 case study.